Now, as a youngling, I always thought that to be in Formula 1, you had to be one of the best. You had to be the best drivers in the world, and that's how you got a spot in Formula 1. But in Formula 1, there are good drivers. But same with everything else in the world, there are good political leaders and some that might be slightly questioned by others. I'm not going to name names, but you can probably guess who that is. What? But there are also some drivers that aren't the greatest, let's be real. If you subscribe and like right now, Logan Sargent will definitely win in Imola. No questions asked about it. Like and subscribe if you want that to happen. Smile. Well, Formula 1, just like pretty much everything else in life, is all about the money. It's all about the money. There's certain teams in Formula 1 which, number one, they can afford the big dogs. They're actually battling for something that is, well, worthy in the world. And there's other teams which they are so bad, it's unfathomable and it's questionable on why they even exist. Certain teams like Haas, they've been in the sport for what, 8-9 years, and their best position ever has been P4. Their best position in the championship has been P5, and more often than not, they produce cars which, well, they rival turtles, snails, tractors. They're that slow. Every single year, it's consistent, but consistently bad. Williams have also had a fall from grace, from winning so many championships and races back in like the 80s and 90s, maybe at the start of the 2000s as well, to now, well, they are, well, as bad as Haas, if not even worse on some occasions. And don't even get me started on the incredible fall off of Alpine, from winning championships in 2005 and 6 to finishing P4 in the Constructors in 2022, to now, well, being plumb last, slowest team on the grid, and just an absolute disappointment. Keep in mind that Ryan Reynolds and other people have invested into this team. They saw a vision, they saw something great, and the only thing that was great that came out of it was nothing. Formula 1 is pretty similar to most other sports. You have good teams, you have bad teams. And in the bad teams, well, there's a very, very low possibility that you will ever win anything, score points, even get a podium, fastest lap, no championship, hell no. So there's literally a 0% possibility of, say, a Lewis Hamilton, a Verstappen in their prime, wanting to even go to a bummy team like that. But if Formula 1 has the 20 best drivers on the grid, surely there isn't that much deficit from driver to driver pace-wise? Surely, right? You see, that's where you'd be mistaken, because in the grand scheme of things, Formula 1 doesn't have the 20 best drivers. They have maybe the 10 best drivers in the world, and then the rest of the drivers, they're just fillers. They're just trash drivers that are, well, not trash, they're still alright, I guess. But they're drivers that are just chucked into the seat because, well, there isn't that many elite human beings that could perform miracles in those machineries to the extent that, well, a Lewis Hamilton can. And because they're not as good as Hamilton, they're not going to win a championship. Their pace deficit is, well, huge to say, well, a Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery. They can be 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times cheaper than, well, say, a Lewis Hamilton. Now, of course, with the lower end teams, money is something that is very, very tight. So cashing out on some kind of driver that will maybe perform miracles in the car, but realistically, someone who is like 5 times cheaper will do maybe slightly worse, maybe pretty similar. There is generally no real point. Williams, on one hand, they have an absolute great driver in Alex Albon, but on the other hand, they have a Logan Sargent. But in a team like Williams, they are broke as fuck. They need 2 good drivers who will be able to score solid points week in and week out. Now they have Alex Albon, which, well, he can do that, and he's proved to be able to do that. But Logan Sargent is just a fat anchor in the team that is weighing them down. He is a cheap driver that, well, he has one shot in Formula 1, and he's already blown it. He's going to get replaced sooner or later for someone else who is also going to be quite cheap. And if they, well, perform miracles, then of course they're not going to be cheap for much long, because other teams will want to hunt them down like fucking birds of prey. If a driver clearly has talent, and they know they have talent, they will want to win races. They will want to win championships. But stick them in a car that can't even get out of Q1, it's just, you're ruining the driver's career and everything around that driver. They don't want that to happen. Like Lewis Hamilton being in that Mercedes currently is the worst thing that could possibly be happening for him. Him being in his retiring years, he wants to win one more championship, and he's in a Mercedes that hasn't even scored a podium yet this year. Keep in mind their whole glory run, like for the last 10 years, looked like this. It's kind of a sticky one because cheap drivers, bad drivers, they put it in the wall a lot. They might be cheaper to like have in the team, but the repair cost will add up over the course of the season. Logan Sargent last year, well, his car every single race was looking like a discombobulated mashed potato compared to his teammates Alex Albon's, which actually had 4 wheels and finished the race. And I'm not just saying that cheap drivers, well, quote unquote, they crash the car every single weekend. No, because Nico Hülkenberg is not really the most expensive driver, but he's one of the most experienced, one of the best. But he just can't extract that tiny bit more performance to actually be competing with the big dogs. And at the same time, I'm not saying that the big dogs, they're not crashing out. I mean, Verstappen isn't, Alonso isn't, Hamilton isn't, and the only real outlier is Charles Leclerc. But Charles, he gets a free pass. His like middle name is Sir Crash a Lot. Or should I say Percival Crash a Lot. But say a Formula 1 team is scrambling for championships. They're fighting at the top of the field literally every single year, week in, week out, like Ferrari, but Ferrari can't really secure the bag, can they? Teams are fighting for fine margins throughout the grid, but it gets really close at the top between the top drivers if there's an actual close championship battle. Surely you want a driver that can actually fight for the championship, actually extract that couple more tenths of performance up at the top. Well, those couple tenths, they might be the most expensive tenths in the world. Instead of some teams paying for drivers which may cost $1 million per year, other teams right at the top, well, I don't even want to know how much Lewis Hamilton, 100 million for Ferrari? 50? But he's one of the few drivers that can actually extract that tiny bit more performance, and when a championship battle maybe does brew up, he'll be the one to be challenging Max Verstappen yet again. All of this is clear and obvious whether a driver is good or bad, can compete for championship wins, week in and week out for podiums. It's all obvious, and if you're a good driver, eventually you will land up in a good team. Eventually. However long it takes, eventually you will be there. Multiple teams will want you. I'm pretty sure every single team on the grid would, with open hands, take in Max Verstappen into their team, and that's why his price tag is so fat. Also, probably because every single race is looking like this.
Max Verstappen, Max Verstappen wins!
You know, in a nutshell, some teams just can't afford good drivers. There's no point of them even having good drivers because they're not fighting for anything. What? Do you really need a good driver to be fighting for P20? Or P10 in the construction? No, you do not. Plus, there's no good driver that is going to go to a shit team and absolutely ruin their own career. That's not going to happen. Good teams stick with good drivers because they have more of a chance to win the championship and fight with other teams with good drivers. And, well, let's be real, the racing is going to be cleaner because down and near the bottom of the grid, there's more carnage than in wars. Drivers are being punted off here, there, everywhere. Kevin Magnussen is on a rampage about to kill everyone on the grid. Logan Sargent is literally murdering everyone that comes into his sight. And let me not even get started with the fallen soldiers of Formula 1, Nicholas Latifi, Mazepin, so on and so forth. If you want to win the championship, get a good driver, not someone who is absolutely going to grief your chances. With that short and sweet conclusion, there are big differences between expensive and very cheap drivers. Or relatively cheap. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments if you ever think that Formula 1 will actually have a stacked grid of expensive drivers. And whilst you're down there, subscribe and like, help me out. Hope you enjoy your day and don't fall under a car. Don't die. Peace.